Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us today as we start with episode 2 of how to scale your MSP without pulling your hair out. This episode will be focused on how to retain and grow your existing relationships. And today I am joined with two powerhouses from the Liongard crew. I've got Dave Nankervis, our Director of Account Management, and Kendrics Hawkins, looking very dapper in his bow tie, Director of Partner Success. Say hi, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, the mics are working. Fantastic. All right. So just a couple of housekeeping items. I always like for our webinars to feel super interactive. So feel free to chat away. So far, it seems like the furthest person away is in Pakistan. We also have Colorado, Missouri, Los Angeles, Chicago. Dave's up in New Jersey. Kendrics is in Houston. I am in sunny Florida. There's a cold front coming in. It's going to be a brisk 64 tomorrow. So if you do have a question pertaining to the content that we're giving you today, look down at the bottom. There's an Ask a Question button. Put your question in there so that I can address it right away and it doesn't get lost in the chat. We also have a poll going on, so make sure you go in there and answer that. And we'll have a second poll midway through. And I think that's really it. So everybody have fun. Ask questions. Don't wait till the end. Like I said, we want to keep this interactive. And quick question. Does anybody know what's behind me? Does anyone know what that is? Someone? No? Okay, we'll see if it comes up in the chat. All right. Without further ado, I'm going to give it over to Kendrics.
All right. Hello, everyone. I am Kendrics Hawkins. I am the Director of Partner Success here at Liongard. I have an MSP background, worked with Caltech out in West Texas, and also worked with AccuData Systems here in Houston. Been part of a cloud infrastructure build out, as well as just building an MSP from the ground up and managing it. Dave, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's David Nankervis. I am the Director of Account Management here at Liongard. I was formerly with a BDR vendor known as Axient. So moved from Denver to Houston, and now I settled down in New Jersey. So pretty excited to share what we have for you guys today and to learn about how to scale your MSP without pulling your hair out. Pass it back to you, Kendricks.
All right. I like the bowling shirt, man. I thought this was going to be a lot more formal, so I showed up in the bow tie.
Look, man, I didn't want to say it, but your new nickname is now Pee Wee Herman. I mean, that's all I can think about when I see a little bow tie. And man. Now the real question is, I know since we're all working from remote, do you have dress pants on as well, or you got some sweatpants on, gym shorts?
No, I don't have any pants on. So, man, I mean, hey, in this environment, you know, your head's up, you know, there's no need for pants. I mean, I'm saving on laundry here.
All right. Well, Kendrick, let's move on.
So without further ado, let's kind of move forward here. Just to kind of recap what's going on. This is a 3-part series. Last time we had Joe Alapat and Adam Slutskin go over how to find new business. Today, we're going to talk about retaining and growing existing relationships. Our next webinar will be led by Josh Tabin. It's going to be on mergers and acquisitions of other MSPs. So just keep that in mind. This one here, you know, I may be biased, but I think this is going to be the best one, but we'll see. All right, so according to Harvard, a Harvard study, increasing customer retention by 5% will yield profits between 25 and 95%. So why, do you ask? So it's because overhead, time, and initial costs, they're already taken into account because you already have the customer. So you've already spent all the money and the resources and the time and the effort to actually bring them on. So there's no overhead for you or for them. This requires a strong relationship with your customer. So, you know, that old saying or that old thought, it's harder to fire a friend or a family member. Even though you may want to fire the family member, it's hard to do so. Versus, hey, there's just another bill on the line item. Let's just go ahead and cancel them because they're costing me money. So we want to talk about how this translates to an MSP. Oh, man. How'd they get in there?
Oh man, I think Cynthia might have planted something in here. This is for everyone to pay attention.
Oh man.
what do we got going on for the competition today?
Well, I mean, since you and I now have plausible deniability, so I want to let you, our audience, benefit from this. If you can tell us before the end of this webinar who these two fine young gentlemen are, I will personally send you a gift card.
And they are Liongard team members. And I'm going to sweeten the pot a little bit here. If you can guess the year of which these photos were taken, we will double the gift card amount.
Oh yeah, you can't be a Liongard team member. That's a good point, Dave. You can't be a Liongard team member. You may already know who these people are. So, but man, this is just mysterious of how that got in there. Huh. Anyway, let's move forward here. All right, so we want to start out by talking about expectations. You know, your relationships during onboarding and also during the initial sales phase. So during the initial sales process, what you want to do is you want to gather as much information as possible. And then you also want to be clear on what is and what is not supported and what is not expected. You want to basically go over and provide a detailed scope of work or an SOW to relay these same verbal communications that you had with your partners or with your customers. So after you've gone through your sales process, what you want to do is you want to have a smooth handoff to the onboarding team that will onboard the customer after you've had your agreement. So with that, you want to have a kickoff meeting or something to kick everything off. That way, everyone, you're setting the playing field, everyone gets on the same page during this call. You may even do a little bit of review of the scope of work, but you're setting, you're basically setting the table and establishing the relationship from the very start. Within this meeting or within the agreement, what you want to do is you want to establish a 30-day transition period when you're bringing on a new customer. What that does is that allows either the internal IT department or the previous MSP that is supporting the client to actually still be able to provide support while you gather the information that you're going to need to provide support. All right. So then what happens there? So you want to basically ensure that your service levels that are in your agreement or SLAs aren't enforced until that transition period is over. That's very important. You don't want to give them a bad review of yourself when you're just now getting started. So you need that transition period. Don't want to start your SLAs. Let's get everything going first. While you're in the onboarding, what you want to do is you want to establish documentation. This will simplify your support with the customers. It gives you a broad overview of what's happening and what needs to happen there. There's a couple of ways you can do this. There's a manual way, and then there's also an automated way. Manual way, we're all used to this. You have your engineers spending days upon days that create this documentation, and they also have to update it when things change, even during the onboarding process. So you're using applications like Excel, you're using Word, you're using OneNote. Now you're using those things to kind of document things and get them written down. Then you have an automated option here. You can get automation in there, which with the automation, what you want to do is you can use your network discovery. It'll discover network devices. It'll discover servers that are in your customer's environment. It will discover endpoints, and it'll retrieve all of that infrastructure data from those devices that you've discovered. Liongard is a great way to do this. That way you're automatically discovering these things and automatically documenting them without having to go to a Word or an Excel or OneNote. So next, what we want to do after we were going through the onboarding process, we're establishing that relationship. We got our documentation together. We want to keep a pulse on our customers. You also want to keep a pulse on your team. So you want to proactively measure satisfaction from your current customers. So is your team meeting agreed upon SLAs after your onboarding, after your initial 30 days, things like that. So you want to set your mind to where you want to control the things that you can control, right? You want to be able to measure customer satisfaction or your CSAT. This is a key This is a key metric that you want to track. After every service ticket is closed, give the partner a platform to give you feedback, provide you feedback. It helps not only you, but it helps them because it allows them to vent. Hey, we all need to vent at times, but it allows us to identify where we need to improve. You want to review these things on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and it's just to make sure that you're sharing this with your team as well, so they can understand how they are doing and how they're performing. This is something we'll talk about this a little bit later. This is also something that you want to try to address during your quarterly business reviews or QBRs later on down the road when you're meeting with your customers. Okay, now, like I stated before, you also want to measure your service levels. Service levels that you established in the contract that you sign with your customers. So everyone should have within that agreement of how long it's going to take to onboard your customer. Most industry standard is around about 30 days or less. Sometimes it can go a little bit more, but you want to go ahead and put that in there. So, and then you want to gauge to see if you actually hit that, because that is part of the agreement that you sign with your customer. So you want to make sure that you're able to hit that target. And if not, you have an opportunity to review and see why things fell short. As you get into support, now we're talking about service tickets. You want to know how many are open. You want to know how many are closed. You also want to measure how long is it taking you to respond to a customer request, right? You also want to measure how long it's taking you to resolve their requests. And then also you want to keep a track of how often you are resolving the request on the first time that you engage with them. So those are things that are very important to measure, and also set a baseline, which we'll talk about later on as well. Last one here is you want to have a net promoter score in place. This is basically considered the gold standard for customer experience. It measures your customer loyalty. So this is something that if you don't have, that you do want to try to go ahead and implement. As stated before, net promoter score, or NPS as we call it, they're measured by asking the question: how likely are you to recommend my MSP to your friend or colleague? And giving the respondents a choice between 0 and 10 to actually give you a rating. 0 meaning extremely unlikely, and 10 being extremely likely. And how you break that down is you break it down into 3 classifications. You have your promoters, right? Those are people that are giving you your 9s and 10s. And so these are people that are extremely loyal to you. They're enthusiastic. They're going to shout you from the mountaintops. Then you have your passives. They're satisfied with your service, but they're not happy enough to recommend you to a friend, right? These people give you a score of around about a 7 or 8. Then you have your detractors. These people will give you a 0 to 6. And so these are people that are unhappy, and they're basically likely to churn. They're basically likely not to renew that contract at the end of the 12-month period. You should measure your NPS, at least quarterly, or every half a year. I wouldn't necessarily encourage you to send it to the same customers as often. So if you want to skip a quarter for one, that way you have your partners, they're grading you maybe 2 times a year versus 4 times a year. All right. So what we want to do now is we want to talk about how you're going to measure your customer as your relationship is going on. Now, we talked about the NPS score, and we talked about not necessarily having your customer fill that out on a quarterly basis, a weekly basis. You want them to rate you probably like twice a year on those. But we all need something internally to where we can hang our hat on and say, okay, this is how we're measuring our customers. And once they get below a certain threshold, something needs to happen. So we want to take some time to study your business and evaluate what key triggers are there for churn and renewal. So you want to focus on about 3 to 5 of these factors, and you want to keep it simple. So try not to get too far over 5. I would say 5 is an optimal number for you, because as you get past 5, you started run into convoluted calculations, and you just want to try and keep this thing simple. Suggestions: Open tickets. How many tickets does a customer have open? I mean, open tickets can tell you a lot of things. It can tell you that, hey, there may be something in the customer's infrastructure that we may need to address via a project. Drill down into those tickets. Look at the classifications and the categories and see where those tickets are falling. That way you can kind of focus on diminishing the number of tickets that the partner has open. SLAs, the time that it's taking you to respond, first contact resolution, the time it's taking you to resolve a customer request. You want to stay on top of those. How many of you have experienced some support with a vendor to where you've asked for some support and it's taking them forever, right? You put yourselves in your customer's shoes, because technically you are. If you've ever encountered a vendor that's taking long to resolve your issue, put yourself in your customer's shoes and try not to have them feel the same way. Also, customer satisfaction, CSAT, customer rating. How are we performing after each request? We always want to get that pulse, because again, there's always something to learn from those. And then also net promoter score. We talked about this. This is to cover overall perception of your company to that particular customer. So these are 5 metrics that we're going to include within a partner score to create a calculation. And so it gives yourself a high level of insight and visibility. That way you're not necessarily chasing down a bunch of metrics. You have these metrics, and you're going to apply some weight to them and come up with an overall score. So then after you've done all of this, what you want to do is you want to look towards setting yourself a benchmark. Where's the cutoff or where a partner is going to churn, and you don't want to fall below that number. So you want to monitor this on a regular basis, and just to make sure that you're proactive in bringing these customers that are near or below the benchmark up into the green. All right, so we talked about our customer score. So here's an example. We'll send you a workbook that will have these calculations in there for you to be able to use as an example, or you can just use it yourselves. But we'll send that to you after this webinar here. So if you're trying to take screenshots, hold on. So we talked about creating baselines. So you want to create those baselines. So you want to measure your customer score about month or 2 or 3. You want to give yourself enough time to identify when your customers are churning. So you're going to do this until those baselines are established. And so then you just monitor your customers, and then you don't want them to go below that baseline score that you set. If they get below that baseline score, then there's an issue there, and you need to focus in on driving up whatever it's bringing down that particular score. So just to explain this example here a little bit, so you can see where we've created our thresholds. So we have our factors, our open tickets, our SLAs, our CSAT, and our NPS, and we set our thresholds. We don't want no more than 35 tickets open per customer. The SLAs, whatever we agreed upon in our contract with the partner, we want to have those set. And also CSAT, you want to set CSAT, which hours we set here. It has to be 4.5 or greater. NPS score, industry average is around about 59 or 60 for customer service. So we dropped in 60 there. Then you just want to apply the results for each partner and see where everything falls. As you can see, we have 20 tickets that are open. We did not meet the time to resolution, so we put ourselves a no there. We have a CSAT of a 4.6, so we met that. We have an NPS of 70, so we met that. And so now you get a total score of a 75. That score means nothing if you don't establish a baseline. So you have to know at what point in time in that customer relationship within that partner score when they will churn. So once you have that baseline, this score will mean something to you. All right, so from there, now you have all of your scoring and things set up. Now what you want to do is you want to set up automatic triggers. These are triggers that will go off if the customer health is in trouble. These are triggers that will go to the account management team. So it'll let them know when to reach out and to assist. Automatic escalations. If something happens where you put in the formula and it detects something that happens, or you're reviewing a metric and your partner score drops below something. There's an escalation process in place for you to address those issues. Also, you want to leverage your company leadership as needed. So let's say, for instance, you have a C-level on the customer end that's having an issue and they're unsatisfied with the way you're providing service. You should be able to leverage your leadership within your company to be able to reach out C-level to C-level to try and help calm those things down. Also, you want to review your missed SLAs on a consistent basis. And then you want to evaluate to why those SLAs are being missed. Is it an employee related issue? Is it a process related issue? So you want to try and figure those things out. Again, this will be in the spreadsheet as well that we send you at the end of this webinar. All right, now we want to plan ahead. So we want to establish a recurring meetings. You want to meet with your customer as often as they would allow you to, but without over meeting with them, right? Two meetings that I would highly suggest that you have. One is a quarterly business review, or QBR, and then one is the annual business review. And that's when you talk about things that happened the previous year. Contracts normally come up on an annual basis. So you basically are able to get in front of the customer and basically show your value, if you will. This helps you stay on that as a customer, or help them renew their service agreement with you. So you want to evaluate where you stand. We'll talk about a little bit more in depth about QBRs a little bit later on, but you want to evaluate where you stand. You want to identify your opportunities for retaining and growing that relationships. You want to talk about those SLAs and those marvelous CSAT numbers that you have. A few things to consider about your QBRs. Once you have a fairly large amount of customers, what you want to do is you want to create or set up a customer council, right? That's so they can provide you feedback. We at times we get caught up in too much into the weeds, and we think internally and don't allow the feedback from the outside to influence our decisions and the choices that we make within our relationships with our partners. We want to be able to do that. So setting up that customer council, it will give you insight to the problems and pain points from the top minds in the industries. You can use this to leverage the growth and show that you care within that relationship. You can spend time with your customers to try and understand them. It helps you plan ahead and foresee the potential issues and how you can solve them. It also expands your capabilities to meet future demands. So, I mean, you talk about these things that maybe they're worried about now that have not happened, and you can position yourself to where you're addressing those things before they do. Also, you need a place where you can store your customer information and just all of the information that you have. Having a professional services automation, or PSA, and a customer relationship management system, or CRM, having those things are huge. Having something similar to those are huge, because what it does is it allows you to have that single place of truth, right? You know, it allows for you to have accurate tracking and reporting. It keeps everything about the customer all in one place. It just makes it easier for you to gauge on how everything is going, and also how the customer's feeling. So that's very important for you, not to have sprawl, if you will, of information. Try to centralize that information if at all possible. All right, so I've sat here, I've run my mouth for about 30 minutes or so. So let me go over and hand it off to Dave. But I think before we actually hand it off to Dave, I think we'll have a poll question, if I'm not mistaken. But if not, I'm handing it off to Dave Nankervis.
This is the quote of 2021 or 2020. I was on mute, so sorry about that. So yeah, let's get into the good stuff. Let's get into growing existing relationships. So we just went over how to retain existing relationships. Now, how can we increase those relationships, which will ultimately lead to more revenue for your MSP? So one thing I wanted to bring up is, according to HubSpot, we saw that selling to an existing customer is a lot easier. You're 60 to 70% likely to sell to an existing customer compared to the 5 to 20% likelihood of selling to a new prospect. So, growing existing relationships are such a key focus for us here at Liongard. And for the next few slides, we'll go over, show you some best practices on developing relationships, leveraging QBRs, and then how to make the pulling of the data easier for those QBRs as well. So Kendrick, if you can go to the next slide. First thing is making time to focus on your customers. And Kendrick, I think we're on the wrong slide here.
Is the one?
Oh, no, go back. Sorry, that was me. Focus on developing relationships, not just services. So making that time to focus on your customers. We understand that, as an MSP, you're always in that firefighting mode, reactive versus proactive, and, find that difficult to keep up with your customers due to the amount of work it takes to manage them. So the best way that we see that helps out with this is to leverage automation. So it frees up your team and gives them the ability to automate manual and tedious tasks, solve problems faster, and deliver value quickly. It also lets them focus more on the customer relationship and less on the issues they encounter. So, ultimately, automation can help increase the end user experience and enables you to position yourself as a trusted advisor. So as soon as you get your customer to trust you, that's what's ultimately going to lead to more revenues, and the sales are just going to be coming your way. And, one thing is Liongard does enable you to have that automation and unified visibility. With some examples, like how long does it take you to document a new customer? We see on average, and I think we might have done a poll or survey on this previously, but we see on average it takes about 25 to 40 hours to document a new customer's systems thoroughly. Well, with Liongard, we see that average time drop to about 1 hour. So that was awesome to kind of see that. We do have case studies on that as well. And then second thing is, we provide unified visibility at Liongard. So when your techs have to go out there and troubleshoot issues, we have accurate and updated documentation. We have historical changes. So if anything were to change on that system, we are documenting that for up to 1 year, and you can roll that back for up to 1 year as well. We provide a single pane of glass for you that shows you kind of a concise picture of what's going on in that customer's stack. So you can see the number of systems you're managing for that customer, if anything changed over the last 90 days, and then also any open alerts. And the alerts are, critical changes that have happened on their systems that we're proactively alerting you about. So you can be a little bit more proactive instead of always being reactive. Next thing is, one thing I wanted to add in here too, which is, focusing on developing relationships. And it's not really product related, but how, especially with today, is how are you connecting with your customers virtually? One thing that we do here at Liongard is always having our video on when speaking to our partners, whether it's a QBR, check-in call, or sales call. And this allows us the ability to make the call a little bit more personalized. And we've actually had great experiences or great responses. So I definitely would recommend to try that on your next call. Something when I first started with the company, I was like kind of camera shy. But now I'm just a creature of habit and always have my camera on for everything. And we see that our customers now always turn their camera on as well. Kendrick, if you can move the next slide.
There you go.
All right, next thing. So how to leverage QBRs and demonstrate how you deliver value as the MSP to your customers. Something that you probably always are going up against or going against the competition. So a couple of quick things is, our QBRs are a great format to gauge a customer's current satisfaction with your company and an incredible avenue for diagnosing current and potential issues that ultimately will lead to upselling. So some type of formats here for QBRs, they vary, but typically they include like MSP activity. So what have you done in the last quarter to deliver value to your customer? Like, okay, number of closed tickets, time to resolution to close those tickets, number of calls answered from that customer, number of projects that you performed over the course of the quarter, or number of services just provided. So, as I mentioned in the previous slide, Liongard helps your team have instant visibility into your customer systems to help add value to these QBRs. So one of the things I want to go over as well as for QBRs is a recap of your customer, right? How many employees have they gained? How many have they lost? number of devices, software that has been added or removed over the last quarter, and any additional information that's relevant. And that's where Liongard comes into play. So you can include things like, okay, Office 365 licenses. How many active licenses do they have? Like I said, have they fired or got rid of any employees, or have employees quit? Do you need to get that license off of their Office 365 instance so you're not paying for that? And next thing is how are you as the MSP continuing to evolve in the next quarter? So how are you as a business investing in people, technology, and ultimately continuing education throughout your company? And then potential opportunities for additional value. So, project work, additional services, etc. Kendricks, you can move to next slide.
There you go.
All right. So we talked about, kind of how to leverage QBRs. Now, how do we make those QBRs easy? Because sometimes it's a pain to pull all of this data from different places and to come up with this QBR report. So the one thing that Liongard does do is provide that instant visibility and kind of makes us a central source of data for any of your employees, especially when doing QBRs. So one thing that can help out with these QBRs and making them easier is reporting. So Liongard's reporting capabilities are one thing that we like to have is the single environment dashboard view. What that is it gives you a high level of details into your customer systems, what has changed on those systems over the last 90 days, and also any open alerts that detected a critical change across those systems. We actually have some partners that give access to their customers, read-only access, to be able to log into Liongard at any time and take a look at their systems and their usage. And you do get unlimited users with Liongard as well. So that's something that we do not charge for. Next thing is a couple of integrations that we've launched over the course of 6 months now. Breakage and Power BI. So if you're using any of these softwares, we have integrations into both, and we have hundreds of partners using our data to generate reports out of Breakage and Power BI to make it a little bit easier for them. So for the next slide, for current partners, we do have a special treat, right? We're going to give you actually a sneak peek into our new enhanced reporting. I'm super pumped up about this. Since I've been with the company, this is something that partners have been asking for. And I'm really excited to share this with you. And then for potential partners, this new enhanced reporting feature is going to help a ton with your customer QBRs. So before we move on to that, Kendricks, do you have anything, based on your previous experience working at an MSP and running a support team on, how your team would leverage QBRs for your customers and kind of what metrics would they use in those QBRs as well?
Yeah, so in those QBRs, you don't want to go into those QBRs and just be like just a data dump to your customer. You want it to be something that is engaging. You want it to be something where you're identifying things, but then also giving them resolutions, and then also giving them a roadmap to the resolution. Sure, you want to talk about your CSATs and all of the things you did in the past. You also want to go over your faults, the things that didn't go right, and what you put in place to actually remediate those things so they won't happen the next time. But then also you want to keep that meeting as a future tense type of conversation. Yeah, let's reflect on the past, but then also let's talk about what we're going to do in the future for the next quarter before we meet, and then also just building up to that annual review. All right, so you want to talk about your value in each one of these meetings. That way, when you get to that annual meeting, you're not having to explain, hey, you need to keep us, because you're not having to make that hard sell. It's already proven. It's already evident to them that they are going to renew with you, and you're talking about future things and helping them set your budget. So we're talking about creating those long-lasting relationships. If you're helping with the budgeting of your customer, that is huge. If you're sitting with those executives and management team and helping them create their budget for the next quarter and even for the next year, even the next 3 to 5 years. So that's what you're looking to do or looking to gain QBRs. All right, so Dave did mention the reporting. So we want to give you guys a sneak peek at this. Now,
when does this get released, Kendricks?
This is going to get released on February the 3rd. So this will deliver the unified visibility for our partners and unlocking that powerful data. we're enhancing that unified visibility by rolling out the reporting that lets you create reports across all of the systems and environments that you have there in Liongard. So you'll be able to save, export, share these reports easily. Now, even just access the historical data to build the report for a specific time. This means no more days of manually digging up that data, checking dozens of systems across hundreds and hundreds of customers. It's automated here in this report for you. So creating a report is easy. Only thing you do is just you select the environment or environments that you want to see or you want to report on, along with the relevant systems with the inspectors that you've rolled out. That is titled there, and then you want to select the relevant inspectors, and finally choose the metrics that are going to be interesting to you to explore. So once you've submitted this report, you'll get a confirmation. This comes toward the end. There's other things that's in between that you'll have to build a report on. Vaguely went through a little bit of that, but after you've created it, you'll get this pop up. You'll be able to download the report in an Excel spreadsheet and share with your coworkers via email or direct link. And you just have these options now versus just downloading a CSV file and emailing it. So here's an example of a domain in TLS and SSL expiration report. So with this report, you can quickly identify which customers have expirations coming up, and then it helps you proactively engage with them about renewing those. So this is also an opportunity to show that, hey, we're in this together. I'm your partner, and it's letting them know that that you're invested just as much as they are. You're letting them know that, hey, these expirations are coming up. You may need to add this to your budget, or may need to account for this. So this is a report. This is a huge time saver. No more checking emails. I know that from past experience. We've had people that had domains renewals assigned to their email. They left the company. The people forgot about them, and next thing you know, we had a system crash. This takes that away. Running this report will allow you to see that huge overview there. So here's another example of report for Microsoft 365 license counts across the environments in your systems. It's making it incredibly easy to check that you're billing these correctly across all of your clients. So this is very helpful for the billing team. It's also a great way to show your customer how you can save them money because you're saving them money, you're adding something to their bottom line, they're more likely to keep you. You're showing your worth to them. Dave, you have any comments here on this one particular report?
Especially for 365. I mean, I know with previous experience as well, is how many times has your billing team scrambled at the end of each month to collect this type of information of how many licenses are consumed across all of your customers. So one good thing with this, especially with you can send it out, you can save reports and things. Well, this is the type of visibility your billing team can have, so they can go to one central place. So something that I kind of want to express to the current partners on the call or even potential prospects is Liongard isn't just used for one specific department. We do have multiple features to use for your for pre-sales, for your billing team, for your engineers. But for this example here, this is great. I've shared this with a few customers already and gotten on the phone with their billing ops team, and they were jumping for joy when they saw this type of visibility. So if you don't have that today, this will definitely help you and save your billing team a huge headache as well.
All right, awesome, Dave. Also, the next one I want to show you is, yes, it's one thing to manage and support the customers. It's another thing to generate opportunities for projects. Now, right here, I have a report for VMware versions. We have a lot of customers out there. They have ESXi hosts of VMware, and some may or may not be in compliance with VMware as they close out previous versions. This report here can go across multiple customers. That way you can identify revenue producing opportunities and identify partners that need to do these upgrades, and you can charge them as a project. It also allows you to see the licensing that they have, and then how many, what's being, the licenses or the CPUs that are being taken in the package that you have allocated. Also, it has the build number in there. So this is an opportunity for you to review if you have the latest stable build of that VMware environment. And if not, then now you can be proactive and patch that. That just builds trust because now you're making that environment a lot more secure. You have, it's not populated here because the one we had didn't necessarily have this, but you can look at when the licenses are going to expire. You can also look at the serial number that's associated with it. So this is very powerful, and it can also help you generate those projects down the road. Another one here is stale users. You know, speaking of security, you know, it's nothing more dangerous than a stale account. More than likely, these accounts are from people who don't need access to the customer to the company's environment anymore. They're probably former employees. If these accounts are left in place, now that former employees still have access to the company's information and data. You know, that's a huge red flag. So not only can those former employees access the precious company data, but now a hacker has a way to try and brute force and go undetected for a while because nobody's using that account. So, I mean, this just helps identify and eliminating those security risks. Anything else to add there, Dave?
No, I'm good, Pee-wee.
All right, Nankervis. All right, I'll pass it back over to you to go ahead and finish this out.
All right, awesome. So I know we talked about a lot today. Now I'm getting to the really good stuff is, you know, how can you ultimately increase revenue by these best practices? So next slide I wanted to go over is how to identify additional services and project works and project works by, you know, you have to find those gaps. So, you know, so combine technical data with business information. So how are your customers planning on growing and changing in 2021? If they mention that, like we mentioned last time, they're mentioning hiring heavily next year and their devices won't be able to handle that load, well, you can now suggest new devices offered to sell them and get paid for installing them too. Another thing is MFA. With security, it's huge today. If they don't have MFA turned on, well, guess what? Now you can offer that. And we do have that visibility in Liongard, and you do have an alert if one of your customers do not have MFA turned on as well, and if they don't have that configured. Well, guess what? You can offer that now as a project. Software versions. If it's an upgrade, you can pitch a project to upgrade them. Office 365 or Active Directory, like Kendrics was just explaining. Inactive and stale users. Eliminate unnecessary licenses so you're not billed for that on the Office 365. Or for the Active Directory, how many of those stale users have brute force attempts against them? Would they like for you to go, would they like to have that visibility? You know, with ransomware being so high today, that's something that provides instant value to your end customer. Asset management, see how old devices are, when they need to be upgraded. ID monitoring, you can offer that for an additional cost if you'd like. That does come with Liongard as well. So you can kind of put an email in there of one of your customers, and you can see if that email has been associated to any breaches throughout the web. And then last thing is the co-managed situations. So something that I've been trying to kind of test out and has been working for a lot of partners is that read-only access to the single environment dashboard. That's that dashboard that shows that customer, their own company, provides them the visibility on the systems you're monitoring for them, provides them the changes that occurred over the last 90 days, and also any open alerts. So any critical changes that we've detected within Liongard that maybe your MSP has solved over the course of the quarter. And through that, it provides instant value because they get to be able to see, okay, what's this MSP doing? And this is something you can say, hey, look, guys, this is everything we're doing behind the scenes that you wouldn't really see on a day-to-day basis. Kendra, if you can go to the next slide.
There you go.
All right, sweet. So last thing is just simplifying the equation. So I know this is a kind of a hard topic, is considering raising prices. Nobody likes to go to their customers and ask for more money. But, raise prices based on the value and the market, and make sure your customers understand the value that you deliver as the MSP. Maybe you want to check your local competitor and see what their prices are to avoid pricing yourself out of the market. And always present other options as well. So maybe if they have outdated endpoints, could you upgrade those endpoints to reduce the number of tickets or service you have to provide that customer and then keep the price the same? one tip that I like to use is, you can never go back up. So maybe start a little higher. What's the worst that's going to happen? All they can say is, no, I wouldn't go too high, but you can never go back up. And next thing would be to consider offering an additional service or services included with your price, maybe to included with your price increase to soften the blow a little bit as well. So that's something maybe like that ID monitoring. Say, hey, we're going to increase your pricing, but we're going to be offering you ID monitoring as well. And next thing is just to make sure to plant the seeds for pricing conversations, especially during these QBRs. Show certain data points or show certain increases in number of endpoints or users. And same applies to software that needs to be upgraded, like Windows 7 that needs to be upgraded to minimum of Windows 10. And one thing I wanted to mention last is when you increase prices as well, you're bound to maybe lose a customer throughout the year. So make sure to account for that when you're doing your financial projections. And we actually have an Excel calculator for you at the end, which we'll send to everybody that's attended this call, that has that in there as well. Back to you, Pee Wee.
All right, so let's get started now. So we want to grab that low-hanging fruit by growing our existing accounts and also the increasing our retention. We want to have our CRM, our account management team would be lost without that. We want to make sure that they take the detailed notes and for every partner after every partner interaction. So that
I had something, Kendrics, here too.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So and one thing with the CRM too is also what we do at Liongard is we make sure not to just log business conversations, but also the personal. Don't be afraid to ask unrelated business questions to your customers, like, "Hey, how has your week been going?" Or, "Do you have any exciting plans for this weekend?" Be sure to bring that up on the following call as well to grow that existing relationship with your customer. When I speak to a vendor, whether it's like, I don't even know, probably not Comcast is a good idea, but if I speak to my insurance company, like Geico, they ask me things like that. But when I speak to them next, they bring that up back on the call and say, like, hey, an example was I just went skiing a few months ago. They brought that up on the call when I last chatted with them. I was like, hey, David, how was your skiing trip, a few months ago? I know you said you were going to the Poconos, which is in Pennsylvania. It's like, wow, they're actually really paying attention to me. So it was awesome. It was a great experience. And now, grew that relationship and made me a loyal customer. The next thing is automation is the present and the future. So start thinking outside the box. How is my team doing this today? And how can I either automate that or make the tasks easier for them so they're not spending a bunch of time doing those manual, tedious tasks? Also, leverage automation for reporting to find any gaps in your customer stack that will eventually lead you to increasing revenue. So Kendrics, we use that example of Active Directory stale users with brute force attempts against them. Well, maybe that customer doesn't want to go in there and clean up all those AD stale users. So, hey, guess what? That's another project for you as the MSP, which you can, get some revenue out of that as well.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. All right. Thanks for finishing that up, Dave. So we're approaching very quickly the end of this particular webinar. So a few things that I do want to mention. One, that I am keeping count of how many times a day calls me Pee Wee. And yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. So after this webinar, you'll receive a recording of this along with an Excel workbook that includes the tabs for calculating customer score and how to measure the impact of raising the prices versus potential churn. So you'll get that spreadsheet as we promised. We'll also share a case study that was done by Doberman Technologies and how they saved a $156,000 relationship with Liongard's help. So we'll provide that to you as well. Also want to go ahead and mention that coming up in the third webinar of our growth series, we're going to focus on mergers and acquisitions. This will be led by Josh Staben, our CFO. He is the comic relief of the company. He's the company comedian on the executive team. So bring your jokes when you come to that particular webinar. He will lead a panel of MSP industry experts that have led MSPs that have been acquired or merged or even acquired other MSPs. So that should be a very interesting one. All right, and so with that, like to learn a little bit, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about Liongard and how we can help you grow your business, book a demo with us today. You can check us out on our website or give us a call. You can email us as well. Join us on MSP Geek via the via Liongard channel. And if you're already a Liongard partner, please join us in Liongard Lounge. And so with that, before I open the floor to questions, do want to know if somebody was able to answer the initial poll question, but then also I want to know if someone can guess which one of us was previously in a boy band.
All right, so right now the votes are 58% say Mr. Bowtie, aka
Oh. Kendrick's got a music video.
So I was the one that was in the boy band, huh? Interesting. No, it was actually Dave, the main man Curvis. Dave, you want to tell us about your boy band?
You fit the part right now.
I don't think boy band is fair. It was in a rock band.
That's what I said. So Kendrick's was, when we were talking about doing that poll, I'm like, man, can't you make it like a rock band, like something cool? But now he had to be a boy band, like NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. I'm like, come on, man, like don't.
It was a boy band. It was a boy band.
Quick question, guys. That awesome new reporting feature, when is that going to be available to our Liongard public?
Tentatively, February the 3rd is the release date.
Okay, so early February. That is amazing.
And for our current partners as well, if they want to kind of see a deeper dive into a demo of that, we do have access to that, so we can show them as well. So feel free to schedule a call with your account manager to go over that new enhanced reporting feature.
And then one question that came to my mind when listening to you, Dave, about price increasing, do you have a certain percentage that you would typically suggest that they do those increases by?
I mean, yeah, I have some percentages or some examples on the MSP like vendor space, but if you're talking about like MSP increases, that would be my main man, Kendricks. Kendricks, have you done any? I know you've probably done pricing increases in the past. What was the typical range for you at your previous?
It really depends. I mean, you have to cater it to the customer because your effort for some customers may decrease and the effort for other customers may increase. So it really depends on the customer. I will say that if you're looking for revenue opportunities there that are beyond price increases, if that's something that's a sticking point with a partner, find some things like, I mean, and you're identifying these things during the QBR. So this is not like something you're springing on them. Find something that you can overhaul. Like when we talked about, the VMware environment being expired, create a project to where, hey, let us go ahead and do an in-place upgrade. That way it makes the support on your side easier. That way it drives down your internal costs. So now, not only are you driving down your effort, but then you also have gotten a little bit more revenue during the next year, but you didn't raise your price.
Yeah, and one thing I would, tag along with that too is, if you are going to do a pricing increase, make sure not to do that within, 3 days or a week or something. Give the customer the appropriate amount of time. I think it's recommended at least 2 months.
Okay, very good. I like that. And then what metrics do we use at Liongard to measure customer success?
So that's an interesting one, and it's directed towards me there. We track how often our partners are logging into our platform. We also track the amount of we have a failed inspector rate. If we see a partner or if a partner has a high failed inspector rate, it drives down their partner score, which forces us to engage them to try and help them resolve whatever failures that they're having within the platform. That's one. And then also it's just making sure that they're fully utilizing the platform. So, inspector per environment. So if we see that, hey, there's not a whole lot of usage for these other features, maybe the partner doesn't know about them. So let's get in front of them to show them how to use them. So those are three that we use.
Very good. All right. I thought we had another question, but it was just a question about my Lego set. So
well, I'm curious. What's the question?
Oh, they wanted to know if it was a Star Cruiser. I think it's actually the Star Destroyer. Obviously, I did not build it. Oh, someone else has a question. Okay. We're about a year into transitioning from a break-fix hourly model to the MSP model. Congratulations, Emily. Do you find using partner scoring is an effective way to help companies like ours transition?
To answer your question, yes. You always want to set KPIs and baselines, because if you don't measure something, how do you know if you're successful or if you're doing bad? So yes, you definitely want to try and implement something like a partner score, or at least if you haven't created a partner score, at least you've identified, or at least identify some KPIs or some metrics that you can track to let you know when you're not being successful with your partners.
And something I'm going to add to that too is, I don't know if you are a partner or not, but with Liongard, we help with that transition as well, because, something that we went over within the presentation is finding those gaps within your customer's tool stack. And we help provide that visibility so you could find those gaps, which will ultimately lead you into converting them from break fix to fully managed.
Yeah, just to elaborate a little bit on that. I mean, if you want a recommendation, two right off the bat, SLAs and number of tickets that customers have open. Those two stick out, because if a customer has a lot of tickets, like I stated during the presentation, there's an underlying issue somewhere that you probably can resolve with a project to reduce that ticket count. Then also SLAs, it tells you what kind of service you're giving to your customers. Are you meeting the goals that you and your customers set during that initial conversation during the sales process? If you aren't, more likely your customer's not happy with you. They may not say anything, but I can guarantee you they're not happy with you.
Okay, very good. And we actually have a few resources on that, Emily, and I'm going to have those dropped in the chat here for you soon. All right, so that looks like about it on the questions. Did anybody know who those handsome gentlemen at the beginning of the presentation were? The young bucks.
Yes, the young gentlemen.
On the Liongard team.
Can we pull that picture back up?
Jonathan,
picture back up. Let's see here.
Oh, Tom got it. Tom, how did you know?
That was like a Google search or something like that. I don't know how he found out the position and everything. All right, Tom. Next question. Can you guess which year these pictures were taken? I don't know if they were the same years actually, but I'll give you if you get one of the years.
No, I think they were the same year because they were in the same grade.
I'm going to go with 1983. 83. Okay. All right. Cynthia, do you know which years these were taken?
No.
We can confirm it with our CEO and co-founder. We'll let you know who the winner is. So we have 1983, 1984, and 1985.
So right. Cynthia, do me a favor. If you can collect that information, and we will get those gift cards sent out.
Absolutely. All right. We don't have any other questions. And just thank y'all again so very much for attending our episode 2. I hope you will join us for episode 3. It's going to be very, very interesting about mergers and acquisitions and with that panel of experts. And that's about all we've got. So have a great day and be safe, everyone. Thanks.
All right. Be safe, guys.
Thanks, everyone.